thing is like I love making people feel uncomfortable. Like if you're gonna make me feel uncomfortable, I'm coming for you.
See,
so if you have me in your chair, and like which has happened, and they talking about girls, I'll be like, nah, but I'm talking to a guy. Do you want to hear about that? Cut my hair.
What's going on, Rebel family? Today's video are black barbershops toxic. But before we get to the video, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the channel. So, today's video comes from a discussion being had on Twitter yet again. It comes from a clip from a show on Amazon Prime called Harlem. It depicts what the writers feel happens in the black barbershop. Let's jump right into that particular clip so we can get the full context here.
Look, I'm telling you, these hoes busted wide open for a 6-piece nugget. No fries.
Yo, you gonna handle this?
He's new. You don't know the rules.
Yo, Aunt, chill. You got a lady present.
Maybe the lady shouldn't try so hard to look like a dude. Barbershop's a safe space.
You're not using the term safe space correctly, dumbass.
Yeah, well, she just laying there all nutted on and shit.
Yo, CJ, please get your boy.
Todd, what can I do? Aunt's family.
I've been coming here for years.
We've been, but me and Aunt are family. He's my mom's sister's son's nephew. Cousins, Todd.
So anyway, I want the titty fuck the hoe, right? And then suddenly I realized Shorty got one titty bigger than the other.
Fuck this. I'm out.
Okay, so that's the clip here, and I'm gonna play that clip again so we can kind of dissect the clip a little bit because the clip actually debunks what a bunch of the people were saying, on social media, that this is exactly how the barbershop works and so forth, right? And you notice that the barber cutting this woman's hair, whatever, stated that he doesn't know the rules, right? So apparently there are rules in place to dissuade this kind of talking or whatever, right?
Look, I'm telling you, these hoes busted wide open for a 6-piece nugget. No fries.
Yo, you gonna handle this?
He's new. You don't know the rules.
Okay, so right there, he's new. He doesn't know the rules, right? So that means there are rules in place for that type of language, right? Now, this is a far extreme example, and there were thousands of brothers coming and sharing their experience, right? Everybody's experience is valid except for the heterosexual black man, right? Thousands of brothers on Twitter talking about this clip and say, hey, this is not how the barbershops get down. Like, I've been in barbershops from here to LA, so forth and so on, and this is not how barbershops get down because there are kids, there are women in there, and even even if it's all brothers in there, it's not getting into this type of language. These are the things that brothers were saying. There were Twitter spaces opened up where people can come and discuss their experiences, and we will all, everybody that said this doesn't happen, and if it does, it's rare that it happens. So we were all wrong, but this false narrative here, and it's an extreme example because he lets it slide because he's family and he's his cousin. Let's continue.
Yo, Aunt, chill. You got a lady present.
Maybe the lady shouldn't try so hard to look like a dude. Barbershop's a safe space.
You're not using the term safe space correctly, dumbass.
Yeah, well, she just laying there all nutted on and shit.
Yo, CJ, please get your boy.
Todd, what can I do? Aunt's family.
See, Aunt's family.
I've been coming here for years.
We've been, but me and Aunt are family. He's my mom's sister's son's nephew. Cousins, Todd.
So they're cousins. So he let this go because they're cousins, right? And like I said, this is an extreme example, and then it is on top of it is fiction, but real life experiences from thousands of brothers, and not just let me correct myself, not just the brothers, but there were women also that say, hey, I dropped my sons off. I never hear this type of language. It's very respectful, etc., etc. Anything that doesn't put heterosexual black men in a bad light, it's not correct. It's false. And then to make the false equivalency to, well, when white people say racism doesn't exist, they haven't seen it and so forth and so. It's a total different circumstance, right? It's a total false equivalency to where there's no system that black men have in the black barbershops that's going to protect barbers who get out of line, much like with white supremacy. I'm not even going to get into that because it was just absurd to say that anyway, to try to make the comparison. But that's how they usually get down with this kind of thing.
So anyway, I'm about to titty fuck the hoe, right? And then suddenly I realized Shorty got one titty bigger than the other.
Fuck with it.
Okay, so that's that clip, right? And it comes from, again, it comes from this show called Harlem. And let me just play what this is so you can get the context of what this show is.
I decided to ask out Shayla.
Shayla? That sounds like a stripper name. Like a daytime stripper name.
Like good morning, gentlemen. Enjoy your waffles as you welcome to the pole.
Here in Harlem, being a woman in total control of her life and love.
You know, I saw you the other night.
Really? That's weird. It's not always easy.
Guys, I'm seriously fine.
Girl, you know we don't believe you, right?
Rainbow sprinkles in your hair.
I'm about work, I'm about career, and tomorrow I'm gonna introduce myself to the new department head and make her fall in love with me.
Dr. Pruitt, I'm such a fan of your work. I've read all 3 of your books.
Camille Parks.
Can I call you back?
That's fine, Dr. Pruitt. I'll talk to you later.
Sorry.
That is definitely Damien.
You look so good.
Girl, you messed up.
Oh, that's right. You two know each other. Only from the entire year that we dated, Mom.
I met a guy who really gets me.
You deserve a good guy. Why is everything always about men? What about our dreams? What about what we want? I think maybe you should go.
You sure?
Holy shit.
Okay, so that's the show Harlem, and it's one of these shows that I like to call. I'm gonna start calling these shows, boss chicks and educated thought shows, because that's basically what they're promoting here. But let me get into the initial video again. This is from a documentary about the queer experience in the black barbershop. This guy is going around interviewing black barbers about his
And my thing
experience.
is, like, I love making people feel uncomfortable. Like, if you're gonna make me feel uncomfortable, I'm coming for you.
See that?
So if you have me in your chair, and like, which has happened, and
Okay, so first let me stop right here. The barber was about to interject, but he understood he can't go too hard because the guy said, "I love making people feel uncomfortable. If you're coming for me, I'm coming for you." And so he purposely tries to make someone feel uncomfortable to where if the barber is heterosexual, he just might just be having a conversation about whatever, in general, not cursing or whatever, he talking about women or whatever, even sports, right? Sometimes I go in the barbershop and brothers are talking about sports. I don't really follow all sports like that, right? Football, definitely don't really follow football as much as I follow basketball a little bit more, but like I said on this channel multiple times, I'm more of a boxing guy. I like that. I know more about boxing and even MMA than I do about football. So they'll have the game on, and I'm like, I don't really. Who cares? I might watch the Super Bowl or some playoffs. I don't really watch every game. I'm not dedicated to football that way. So some people may not know that you're offended. Because I don't say anything, it doesn't offend me, right? So they may be talking about the girls. I can relate to that, but it is what it is. But this guy, he gets offended because someone's talking about girls. And so he purposely wants to offend somebody. And the brother was about to say, "Hey man, you know that ain't right." And he knows it's not right, but he's gonna do it anyway. So what happens is, if someone says something to him out of line, then he can play victim.
they talking about girls, I'll be like, nah, but I'm talking to a guy. Do you want to hear about that? Cut my hair.
You see what I'm saying? So everybody can have all this smoke except for the heterosexual black man. This is kind of getting ridiculous, right? So the agenda is going hard. I'm going to play another documentary. This is coming from the perspective of a brother who is showing his experience in the black barbershops, and he wants to kind of like a music video. So he's wants to show how afraid he is once he goes into the barbershop. All right. I mean, so look, I got to stop it here. Look at all these young children in here, young male children, young female children, women are in here, and this guy's walking around like he's deathly afraid. I mean, what does he think is going to happen to him right in the middle of all this? That someone's going to smoke him and snuff him out right here in the middle of all these kids, women, little girls, little boys. I mean, little boys. I mean, so he's showing how deathly afraid he is. It's all propaganda, and they're well funded. Look, he's having a breakdown, and everybody's in there like looks like they're having a decent time, that they're having a pretty good time, right? So anyway, that's that for that video, and everybody in there looks like they were having a good time, but he's deathly afraid for some reason, and these people are well funded. I want to show you how far back the agenda goes here. So this is an article from 2018. The black barbershop is both toxic and intimate for cishet black men. Cishet being short for cisgender heterosexual, right? Cisgender, you identify with the gender that you were born with. Heterosexual black men. If you see these three words in any order, black cishet men, cishet black men, you know what's going to follow is going to be some bullcrap, okay? So here we go. Cishet black men are often committed to their barbers in ways that resemble romantic relationships. So they around this time they were trying to push that narrative that black men were kind of moist or whatever, right? They were kind of there was kind of a homosexual relationship with their barbers that these men have, because they're like, oh, I don't want to cheat on my barber by going to a different barber, right? The barbershop historically has been a place of refuge, sacred space for mostly cisgender heterosexual black men. Like many other institutions, it has it has been home to deep-rooted heterosexism and misogynoir, right? Of course, misogyny, right? Misogynoir, right? Now, let's see who this. Deshaun Harrison. I had to look up who this brother is, right? I always got to look up who these articles are written by, and of course, young brother, right? All right, Deshaun Harrison, all right? Here's some of the other articles that he wrote. The daily realities of being fat, black, and queer in public spaces. Now, I have to agree with some of the brothers who say, man, some people are running the victim Olympics, because you can do something about being fat. Like, you don't have to sit up here and cry about somebody's quote unquote discriminating against you for being fat. If you didn't want to be fat, you could change that, right? Can't do anything about being black. Queer, there's a difference of opinion on that, right? Anyway, here's his brother. Look kind of like a sassy stud. I'm sorry. So I already kind of know what this brother's get down is. And here we go again, right? Here's another picture of this brother. Okay? There's another article from, this is the video, this is from the documentary that I was just playing, the last one, where this brother was showing, it's called Buzz, the documentary, a revelation of a queer black experience in a straight man's world. So he's running around scared, even though there's young kids in there. Who's more vulnerable, him or the women or the young girls, and especially those very young boys, right? Who's more vulnerable? They look like they were having a decent time in there. So it's, like I said, this is like a music video, right? And this guy's name is Michael Love Michael. And here's Michael Love Michael. Okay? You can kind of see what's going on here, right? Okay? Another picture of, another article here also from 2018, The Black Barbershop, Toxic Masculinity and the Unspoken Truth. All right? Same thing, you go down through this, This is from the other documentary that the brother that I played earlier. So he's giving an interview for this. All right, it's another article. Queer people and queer people are changing the toxic culture of barbershops. Right, well-financed agenda. Right, and looks like this was written by Jamila King. We're gonna see who Jamila King is. Right, so this is, I guess, kind of an all queer barbershop. The one of the barbers here is queer, is a queer person. Anyway, the writer of this article, Jamila King. No surprise, right? No surprise here. It's another picture of Jamila King, right? Okay, starting to see a pattern here, right? The barbershop is a refuge for black men, but not if they're queer. Jawan Holmes, right? I grew up in the shop, a space for straight black men to seek support, friendship, and community, but for queer men like me, it's hardly a haven. Right? Go down here, of course. This dude said, I realized it wasn't a lack of space that kept Alvin Haley, Bayard Rustin, and Marlon Riggs off the walls. It is a lack of respect, because he was talking about the walls having Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali and so forth on the walls, right? Something else in this article. Here we go. No, that's the same thing. That I said earlier. The barbershop has remained a space for black cisgender straight men to seek support, friendship, and community from other cisgender straight men, but it is hardly a refuge for queer and trans black folks. I don't even understand how they know you're queer when you go in there, but nonetheless, the barbershop is traditionally a space for men to display masculinity. Right? This was written by, again, Jamila King. Excuse me, Jawan Holmes. I'm sorry. Jawan Holmes. This is Jawan Holmes. These are some of the other articles that Jawan Holmes wrote, right? Jawan Holmes is a bisexual writer. We don't like, why do we care what your sexuality is? They put this thing on Front Street for us to, they lead with this. This is the identity that they lead with. This is the identity that they most readily identify with. So I mean, it's hard for me to understand what we're supposed to do when you give us that information. I mean, you come in the barbershop, you get your hair, you talk, whatever it is, and that's it. I don't get what all of this is that we have to, I guess, big up you for telling us what you like to do in the bedroom. I don't want to really understand. It's this entitlement for this new generation that everybody has to accept you. Everybody has to agree with what you're doing. Everybody has to be okay, and you have to you're seeking validation from everyone everywhere. If you go into a barbershop and I mean, you're not physically harmed. I mean, some things might be said that you don't agree with. It is what it is. It's okay. I don't agree with certain things that people say. And what I'm gonna do? I came there to get my hair cut. I'll chop it up with the brothers on the on whatever topics that are being discussed. If it's something that's being discussed that I don't want to talk about, I don't talk about it. And I've gone into barbershops, and this is particularly mostly for my sons. I cut their hair when they were younger, and then when they got to the point to where they wanted cuts that I couldn't do, I'm like, all right, you got to go to the barbershop. And I actually don't even, really frequent the barbershop like that. But anyway, when they're in there speaking about politics and they're big up in Obama and people like this, I just keep quiet because I know it's going to turn into an argument. Because I'm like, you're pushing that thing, so I don't even say anything. But and I'm not equating my experience to theirs. To anyone that's queer, their experiences are real, but you also have to validate the experience of people who actually spend more time in the black barbershop than you do. Especially the women echoing this sentiment that the barbershop is just toxic and it's a scary place and so forth and so on. Um, you know, Traditionally, what I've seen, like even like I said in the clip, there are rules against those types of things. So I don't believe this narrative that they're pushing, but they are pushing this narrative hard, and it's for all us, all the brothers to get on board and protect the image of the black man and push back on these negative stereotypes whenever we find them. Those are my final thoughts. Peace, Rebel family.